Hello, today is Thursday, the 20th of July 2017, and Tony's not the happiest bunny. Tony, hello, today is
Oh, Jack made an error.
And are we still live?
We are, but he had it replaying in his background, the idiot. Right, start again.
Yeah.
Hello, welcome to Let's Try It Out, and Jack made a boo-boo.
I forgot. It's because I've got laptops out here. So, yeah, whoops. I forgot. I'm running two computers. I don't like this. But, yeah, anyway. Yeah, today we're joined by... Next to Tony is Richard Hartley.
Hello. How you doing?
And Andy RC, when we get to him, he will then ask Rich who he is.
Hello.
We are joined by the boy band member, Chris.
Hello. I didn't realise I was the boy band member.
You are. Look at that hair.
Look at that. We're all boy bands. Look at this.
I know.
We could make a great pop drone group.
Tony's the one the media sort of conveys to see whether me and Tony are in a homosexual relationship. We're the sort of closet homosexuals.
Oh, like the Harry Styles in the other one.
Yeah, Tony's not. I might be. Tony gave for Tony. Hashtag. Anyway, and we're joined once again with Andy RC because we loved him so much. We got him back again.
Thanks very much.
As you were, Andy RC, please feel free to ask Richard Hartley who he is.
I feel really bad, but because I spend all of my time making videos, and this is awful, I very rarely have a chance to sort of check out other things. So I have to say, in that respect, that I'm not up on other channels and things like that. So I have to apologise to Richard.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
No. Shall I smooth the awkwardness, or shall I let you
Not
do
at all.
it?
No,
What
I love
level of
awkwardness.
harshness do you want? Say when.
So basically, I am nobody in this sport much now.
Oh, mate.
And for me to say that is because the sport has moved on a lot. But then again, you could say that I was one of the first sort of early pioneers of this as well.
Right.
So if you go back to 2013, 2012 time, when I first started flying drones, and I was flying a 700mm hex at ground level and over the hedges about 2 foot up, and then I bought a blackout, and then sort of the likes of Just 70 and Riser out in Australia, people like that, when they were making these pioneering videos, me and Luke Bannister, we used to just chat on IM when he first started as well. We all start together, but as these things happen, people's lives take different journeys, don't they? Some people get all the time in the world to practice, and others just don't. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so I won the first Brighton, the International Drone Day at Brighton, racing Tony Cake with his Mark 1 Vortex that he had at the time.
That's the guy from Immersion RC, by the way.
That is Mr. Immersion RC, isn't it? Basically, Tony.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then sort of at that time, I was racing a quad that, well, no one else had a quad like that. To be fair, I came with this sort of 5-inch minion running Cobra 2300s and bullnose props, and no one had anything like it. And for quite a while, nobody really did.
I was up against you with a wooden quad. My quad was made out of tree.
Yeah. So at one point, so when I opened this, I said, now it's moved on so massively, I wouldn't expect so many people to have half a clue who I was or whatever. But that's just the funniest thing about this, because even some of the guys that I used to massively respect back then, they've moved out of this as well, where people have moved in, and the thing is that makes me laugh is the way the technology's gone round. I mean, did I giggle when I started seeing people use soft mounts and things? I mean, it's hilarious, absolutely hilarious, because you know, we'd gone through the whole phase of having to mount stuff on foam and putting motors on bobbins and all sorts, trying to get rid of the jello in your old Mark II and Mark III hero cams. And then it all got a bit better, and people caught up, and I started actually adjusting the code to get the quads to run smoothly. And you're eking this out of the band, out the bands in the middle to get rid of the dead band, and doing everything the way you should. And then everyone goes back to just putting bits of rubber on everything. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It really is.
So the important thing, Richard, is do you still fly though? So you've obviously moved on.
Oh yeah. No, obviously I fly for pleasure now. I mean, I've got about maybe three or four quads kicking around. A couple of 4-inch, couple of 5-inch. Occasionally, I threaten to build a new one. I still do fly. I'll still happily shoot a gap that's only a foot wide. You know, I laughed the other day at Matt Evans because he had these big new circular gates to go around with the fabric around the outside. I don't know what they're called.
I've seen those.
They were about 4 or 5 foot round.
Lesser or something like that, is it? Is the main I've seen lesser as a
I think you might be right.
ones.
And so I posted on the feed this 3-foot hula hoop on the top of a wooden stake with a 3D printed mount, and I was shooting through 3-foot hula hoops in 2014 time. And it's amazing how it just all goes around. So yeah, it is weird. So guys, I mean, what's it like now? I mean, how do you feel the sports? How do you feel the sport is now?
I think it's just moving so fast. Like this week, I've had like kind of a frustrating week because I've been checking out new tech. So this week I've been checking out 32-bit ESCs, which is a fairly new thing, and it was quite a steep learning curve because 32-bit ESCs, they require a new version of BL Heli Suite, so it's not built into the configurator, and you also need a beta version of the Betaflight configurator, so not an official version of the Betaflight configurator. So I had to install that, and also a unofficial version of Betaflight as well. And there's different, like I think we're coming up to version 3.2 now, and there's a few different versions of version 3.2. So this week, yeah, for me, I think as someone who has like a YouTube channel and tries to keep up with the latest, I find it so difficult because, you know, on a week by week basis, I'm out of date with what I've learned, you know. So for me,
this is one of the exact reasons why I ebbed away from the sport, because it's a geek sport. You've got to be literally talking to somebody who's on the cutting edge every week to find out what the latest fix is for the latest thing that's broken. You know, I mean, I occasionally I am sort of Matt Evans and other people if I really need help, or, you know, or Brett or somebody else if I need to help on something, and they'll come back with an answer immediately. And to them, it's like that. They knew what was going on like 2 days ago, which seems out of date, you know. And I can't. As an average chap that has I've got an aerospace business that I work with, and I cannot keep up with that rate of change. It's just not possible. So that's one of the reasons why you sort of ebb away from being right at the cutting edge. Even if you are a bit of a geek, you know, and you're an aerospace type person anyway, you still can't keep up.
Yeah, one of the things that I noticed as well is that I went to Western Park recently. We talked about it on the last podcast. I met Jack, and there was a lot of amazing pilots there. And I personally hadn't heard of them. And I think it's because they spend so much time like flying through packs that, you know, that's what they dedicate their time to is the flying part, and less of, say, uploading it to YouTube and things like that. So I'd love to. I don't think that the sport is as popular as it could be. One thing that I was surprised about when I got to Western Park was how the FPV flight line, there was like 30 people there max, and then looking at the fixed wing flight line, there's like, you know, 50,000 people. So I think it's definitely got more room to grow. But yeah, it's I think that the rate that the technology changes is crazy. I'm struggling to keep up with it myself.
One thing I have noticed, though, I think that the software loads are changing on a week by week basis. People are saying, try this board, try that board. But the actual change, the incremental change, is not as great as all the faff, you know, the hype train that people put into it. And absolutely not worth it, to be honest.
I'm going to say something really unpopular, and that is the difference between One Shot 125 and Beat Al Hali 32. I cannot tell the difference. I can't. I know that's going to upset a lot of people, but you know, I can't tell the difference. But I appreciate the amount of work, obviously, that goes into to get there, and I think that's fantastic.
It's exactly the same as Chad says. Chad can't tell the difference between all the 32, the multi-shot, one shot.
Yeah, F1 or F4. I mean, maybe I'm just not a good enough pilot, but you know.
Well, he is a terrific pilot, and he says he can't tell the difference. So, is it really going to be worth having 32-bit ESCs? I mean, Kiss already got them, haven't they? Well,
I've been flying them today, and I've been having issues with them, and that's why I've had an awful week, just because I'm trying to troubleshoot. I've basically done a build this week with a load of new tech. So new flight controller, so the Kakute F4, it's got a soft mounted IMU and 32-bit ESCs, and then the new white tops or red bottom Emax motors, and one of those components is failing, and I don't know which one. So yeah, I haven't posted many videos this week, but definitely been frustrated this week with new technology. But you know, that's part of having a YouTube channel, I guess. I spend most of my time troubleshooting, and hopefully I'll get to the bottom of it and it'll help someone at some point.
You make two really good points in that. Go back a few years, and there used to be people would go out, they'd fly some packs in the week. They'd build up a little bit of archive footage, and then at the weekend they would drop their video that they'd spent a little bit. I mean, this is why I bought a Mac, because I used to edit down videos to music and put them up there, and that used to be like a weekly ritual. You'd put something up there either on a Saturday evening or a Sunday evening, and see who thought it was any good, and so people knew who people were. Yeah. And at one time, you could actually gauge where you were in the worldwide community by watching other people's videos and seeing, you know what? I could have made a smaller gap. That's pretty good. I like that. I'm going to learn that next time I go out. There was you know, I remember the first time I put up something really lame. This might seem but the first time I put up a triple spin, I had all the sticks in the corners. I was just flipping around, going in. The quad was going nuts, and people talked about it for a whole evening. And that it's nothing now, you know. Yeah. But then when you could get a quad to actually do that back in 2014 or whatever. And hang on and not fall out the sky as well. It was an achievement. Now it's not, you know, because everything's so locked in. It's different. But so two things came out of that. One, you were flying. You weren't spending all your time faffing around night after night with a new bit of kit. Yeah. And two, people were seeing other people's work. And not a lot of people are posting. I mean, I still do watch the forums. I don't see that many people posting videos these days. Not by comparison.
I forget you lurk in the RC groups.
I always look. I'm linked to them all, you know. But I just I watch what comes up, and you know.
You should just upload a video of you in your camper van. Because that is pure filth. I've never known anyone to have such a nice camper van. Honestly, it's like hanging out with you know, Exhibit, you know what I mean, like that is one pimped ride. It's just like
I love camper vans. In fact, I literally spent an entire evening looking at like pimped up camper vans where people have like turned. I look at some of them, I'm like, that's nicer than my house, you know. So amazing videos.
You guys seen the van life stuff that's going on at the moment?
Yeah.
The transit vans into full out like amazing camper vans.
It's crazy, isn't it?
The best part is with Rich was I remember at the Nationals, Tony broke his quad, and I was like looking for like some wire or something, and I remember like, you know, asking around. We'd scored the new VTX for Tony from Banny. Went and saw Rich for a bit of heat shrink and some wire. And I was just like, yeah, Tony's done his quad. And he was just like, what do you need? And just opened the back of this camper van and just stacked.
Remember that?
Oh, the full thing at the back was just, you know, like the really useful box empire. Like he spent just as much on the camper van for like, you know, storage. Like there was no IKEA shit. I think he went with a good IKEA cheese grater and that was it. You know,
But to be fair, that's how much I used to be into it. I used to carry spares for everything. I used to carry everything for everything. I was totally there. You know, these guys that build 3 or 4 identical quads now, I got to the point of building 2 the same. I never got quite to the point of building 4 the same. But that's how much you need to be into it. You need to have a spare for everything, don't you? And if you keep, that's the other thing. If you keep changing your tech all the time, you keep ending up with random crap just hanging around. Or, you know, the odd motor spare this, the odd motor spare that. I actually kept one motor brand for quite a while. I've got like 3 or 4 quads running one motor brand, because at least then you're only carrying 1 or 2 when you were covering 16 corners, you know.
You also get to know those components really well, don't you? So it's not like you keep on trying to change things and then like all of a sudden from 1 week to the next you've got a completely different quads. Even though your flying style's still the same, you're changing components like it's nothing.
Yeah,
it's probably the best.
I've got a really good question to ask, and it's been puzzling me for a while. Back in the whenever, I used to think, okay, 4.5 bull nose, 5-inch on a 2300 motor gave you a lot of power at the time. Okay, now everybody's running 26, 28, 3200 type motors, that sort of speed. Not many people are down at 23 and 2100 anymore. I always thought that it was a bit of a hiding to nothing because you're just making holes in the air with the screw that you were turning. Now, I know guys that work with, they race those I forgot what category it is, but basically the control line. And they are absolutely mad keen. They know everything about props, prop angles, speeds of their engines and everything. It's crucial to knock a nth of a second off their times. We just throw the bigger motor on there, the faster motor, the bigger prop. And I'm sure that they're just not as efficient.
Yeah,
now, I don't, you know, people's got battery lives down to like 2 minutes now. Now, is that the right thing? Is that the wrong thing? Are people just jumping on a hype train and have absolutely no idea what they're building? These static load tests, you know, that they do for motor power and that, they don't mean shit. They don't, because they're all...
We let Tony on here.
From my experience, I think it's just the want of more power, basically, and it doesn't matter what the cost is. I find myself going through with the technology at the moment that the batteries are barely surviving, you know, 20 cycles before I'm ready to say they're no good anymore. And I definitely think there is a sweet spot. And Joshua Bardwell, he did a video on the new red bottoms, the Emax ones. So I think they're 2306, 2700 kV. And I'm testing those at the moment. And on a full battery, the first punch out, the battery, I mean, and this is like using a Tattoo R-line battery or a graphene battery, something like that. On the first punch out, I've got a voltage reading going down as low as like 13 and 12 volts. So I definitely think there's a sweet spot for these motors. And I found it to be, I agree with a lot of the reviews out there, the 2206, 2700 kV, I would say is probably the limit is what I'm finding. And even at that, you can get a massive voltage sag on your batteries. But yeah, I think from my experience of reviewing products and things, people just want more. Sometimes 4S doesn't even mean more power, you know, when it comes to like kV and stuff. But the fact that the number 4 is higher than 3 is better.
Don't get Rich started, because he'll start talking about the time he met Chi, and you know, they were like, what is this? They literally like shoved Chi in a cage and like were examining his quad and asking him questions. You know, they were like, you're on 4S and you're not on fire. You know, like that's the thing, like, you know, like Tony is a dinosaur, like Rich was like the caveman running away from like, basically.
Hey, I'm on 4S now. Now everyone's moved to 5.
Yeah, I know. Like that was it. Like Rich was flying the Minion and like beating the Vortex, and then like I crashed my quad, and then Tony's learning how to make fire from Rich with my quad by rubbing the sticks together.
Come on, Tony, chip in.
I know, like I'm trying to get Tony engaged, guys. Not.
I can only just. I could just
married,
see the green thing.
but yeah,
Come on, Tony, what's up?
Oh, he's miserable. He broke his whoop, man. Like just
Yeah, but
trying to
how
do it.
badly have you broke it?
I didn't even break it. I didn't even put it together.
Fucking,
That's how bad it was.
Wow, can people hear Tony tonight? Wow. Sorry.
So what did you do to it, Tony?
Wired the camera too short. Put the FC up the wrong way round. Put the motors in the wrong way round. Couldn't get the screws into the FC. What else did I fuck up? Sorry for swearing.
Basically, you don't know how to build.
I tell everyone I am the worst at building and I hate it. And everyone was like, "No, it's a tiny wall. It just clips together."
That's not everyone. That was me on the phone to him last night. I was like, "Tony, you'll be fine. It's just, you just plug stuff in." And
and I plugged it in all the wrong way round.
Can I ask a question? I saw a very short video of Jack and Tony, and it looked like you were about to climb a tree. What happened?
I saw that too.
See, back in the day, you used to do those triple backflips, and people would talk about that for weeks. You get a chair stuck in a tree, and people like months.
Yeah, but that's gold. That's proper.
And also, I'd like to make a correction as well. I didn't get my quad down with the stall. I threw it up. The quad stayed there, so did the seat as well. I got my quad out with the use of Dan Upton. And then Dan jumped out the tree, forgetting he was like 32 or however old he is, and hurt his foot. So he was limping around for a couple of days. I felt bad and dumb. And then Tony just meanders down there and then decides to make the little video. But don't worry, I've got my revenge. I've got the fright night of him being like, "Dan, you go in front. Jack, stay behind me." Because we went ghost hunting, and I have never seen such a pussy. He looked like he wanted to cry in that dungeon.
Well, I did. I was fucking in between you and Dan.
That's what you told him. He had like formation. Do you know what I mean? He literally thought he was Scooby-Doo, honestly. Oh man. So yeah, I got my fucking.
Did you see any ghosts then?
No, I saw fuck all. Absolutely.
But we are going to hit it and quit it. We're going to fly there next Saturday, I think.
Yeah, but yeah, it was just, oh man, just 3 guys in a field till like 1 in the morning, just like looking for ghosts. And the worst part is, like, I've tried to edit in my footage, and I just sound like Muttley. Me just
laughing,
like just quietly laughing, man, at Tony.
So what? It's a known place in Brighton that's supposedly haunted, or is it's an actual like event that you went to?
Pevensey Castle, yeah.
Oh right, okay.
It's haunted apparently, and we went there. It was a good laugh. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Like any quality time with Tony and Digby Dan. Like Digby Dan made that trip happen. But Tony's just such a pussy when it comes to like ghosts and stuff. It's great. He's so funny. And then they're like, we're walking in the middle of the field, and I like scream, and then he like threatens to kill me. We stuck a GoPro chest mount on it with like like it looks like a dildo. So all you get from him is like, I've got a strap on and stuff like that. It's just so funny.
When are you editing that bloody video?
Oh mate, I can't get through it. I start editing, I start crying. It's just pitch black, me screaming at Tony, laughing, and then Tony getting angry at me. That's all it is. I could probably condense it down to 5 minutes.
The camera was, the camera angle was like shoved up my nose. It was just horrible.
Oh mate, it was good going.
It's the new Blair Witch.
I know, mate. It is. Like,
it was. But yeah, we managed to get your quad out, your seat out of the tree.
So I have to ask a question. Isn't it a bit obvious that if you throw your seat in the tree, it's going to get stuck?
No, it won't.
When you want your quad, anything's going up there, though, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I'm with Chris on this one. Exactly. I would have thrown Tony if I could have got hold of him.
Guys, I got a question. Do you think if it was easier, more people would get into FPV?
Yes,
And
absolutely.
do you think that's the way that it needs to be going?
Yes, Tiny Whoop's already built and sold. I should have bought one.
Yeah.
There's got to be a route. I mean, the number of people that have come up to me in these past few years, and I've given ride-along flights to, they all love it. They all absolutely love it. I don't know whether it's the cost puts them off. Maybe when I tell them the story of what you really should buy as opposed to what you can buy, you know, because this whole buy cheap, buy twice thing, you know, I never advise people to buy these super cheap kits and have a really lame ass screen, and I always advise them to go in at a certain mid level to get a good feel out of it. But people do struggle to get into this hobby, and to be honest with you, I'll give you a couple of examples. A friend of mine,
Rich versus Andy RC, round fucking one. Sorry, Andy RC is the king of like reviewing cheap shit. When you were like, "Can I come on?" I was like, "Andy, can you come on?"
Yeah, this was a plan all along.
I was going to give you two examples actually that are really, really key to this discussion point, and they're two friends of mine. My example and one other friend. There's probably I got one of the very first hexcopters that came out from Black Sheep. Do you remember that horrible little black thing with green props?
Yeah, with the props like tilted. I think I remember.
Yeah, that's the one. Whatever it was called, I got one. I was literally first adopter. I had it really, really early. Even at that point, when I was building quads for fun, building for friends, doing everything, it was a faff. Gemini. It was a faff to get it linked to my Tyrannus, get it flying right, and eventually I got it hovering in the lounge here, and it took me about an hour to an hour and a half to get a ready-to-fly quad linked to a pre-ready Tyrannus that was working all my other quads, copying across an existing file for the settings and everything to link to a D4R at the time, and it still took me an hour and a half to get the damn thing in the air. Now, if it's taken me, well, whenever they came out, or whenever it was, 2 years ago.
I can't believe. Where were you? I chatted to Trappy, and I totally forgot about the Gemini. I wished I'd been like, Trappy, why was the Gemini so fucking shit? It was 1806. Tiny little props that you had to get. The canopy would just fly off. You had to glue your own brackets to the canopy.
It was in itself. It was a step change in the whole sort of attempt at ready to fly. But the pace of the market was such that by the time it came out, it was already out of date. I mean, I remember kicking the arse out of the one I had on the smallest, lightest battery I could get, and it's still. I just watched it go. Woof, is that it? Woof. You know, it had no guts, so it was never going to be anything competitive. And like you say, the arm snap for fun. That's one example of it being damned hard work to get a ready to fly quad ready to fly. And then just the other day, a friend of mine bought a Spark, and he had a bugger's job getting it to get it into the air. You know, and that's again another off the peg kind of
DJI Spark.
Yeah. And he's been flying a while. He's built his own quads from scratch. I've seen some of his home builds, you know, as well as the sort of standard carbon race spec kind of quads. He's built them, but he got this Spark, and it was a faff for him to get into the air. Now, if he is as an IT type person as well, he's struggling to answer your original question. Is it too damn difficult for people to get into this? It must be.
If you basically, I need to hire Tony out to these people and be like, here's my monkey. If you can get him to work this and not break it in under 5 minutes, you got a winner.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
You know, like that's, if anyone's listening to this, Tony is available for hire. Because, you know, it is like, if anything was Tony proof, like, you know, I was just like, yeah, sure thing. Like, I mean, that's why I was a fan of like the fossil stuff kind of things. You know, I was just like, that keeps all the stuff locked together away from Tony. If I could ban people from giving him Allen keys to open it, it would have been great. But unfortunately, no. he figured out what they were called and where to get some. I think he just stole mine that were laying around the place, or they started giving them out in Emax motors. So when he bought a new motor, he could get in there.
Tony, what do you have to say about that? Are you still sulking over your tiny
He's
word?
always sulking.
I'm sulking.
Always. Nothing.
So-
He's not biting at all today.
Can I just bring it back to what Jack said about me being the king of reviewing cheap crap?
Ashens of the RC world.
Yeah, well, not quite, because I've got some. I like to say if it flies, I'll review it basically, and I do.
You know when you say fly, you mean set fire to it and give it a good kicking across the field. Does that count as fly?
It's funny you say that because I've been playing with fire today with the quadcopter, but anyway, that's for a
no, don't gloss over that.
That's for a different video. No, but what I wanted to get back on track on with is for me the Gemini. I would say that's not a cheap model. The thing that I think is great about cheap models, and I'm talking about the models that cost like £20 that you could walk into an electronics store and get. And I get asked this all the time, Jack. You asked me at Western Park, why do you review such cheap things? I think NJ Tech on the podcast previously also said that, and the answer is simple, really, and that is that it was so I've been flying a long time. I've been flying since I was 7 years old, and I'm like 34 now. So when I was young, stuff was really inaccessible, but now, you could walk into Maplin and get like a 20 quid Hubsan, and that's actually how I got back into this. I had like a 5 or 6 year break from fixed wing because I kind of got fed up of it in a way, because the technology, there was a huge gap like for 10-15 years where technology didn't change whatsoever, and then all of a sudden, when CCTV cameras got small enough, then that gave birth to FPV
and the Nintendo Wii.
Well, yes, of course, absolutely, yeah. But so to answer that question, I think the cheap end, and from like what I get from my subscribers as well, I think that really cheap end is as important as the extreme expensive end, because I think that's the path that I went on. So if I think something is cheap and is good, I'll review it. I think what Richard was saying though is if you've got something that's like in the middle, that's sort of like, expensive kind of to some people, but it's not any good, and then that's when it's worth spending the extra money. But I always say to people first, if you want to get into this sort of thing, just because it's how I got into it, either try out like a little micro Hubsan H107L or whatever, and you're bound to like it. I've not met a single person who's had to go with one of them and said, nah, that's not for me.
That's how I started. I got a Hubsan X4 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I got it for my dad, and he never used it, so I started playing around with it, had a great time, and then learned how to build a quad. So I'm totally down with it. I think that's a very noble cause you're doing there, Andy.
Yeah, I mean, you are somewhat of a gifted child, because like when I first met you built a quad and there was nothing really wrong with it. Do you know what I mean? It was like a few tweaks and you were good to go. You really sort of, knocked out the park. But also Andy RC has been a bit of an influence on you, because he did manage to get you to buy something that before the show started, he was like berating Andy RC.
Oh, mate, I love it. I've got through Andy RC, I got a Aurora 100, which is like a micro brushless, and I love it. And I've been telling everyone that literally micro brushlesses are like not the best thing since sliced bread, but like so good, especially for people in the UK, where like you really have to go out your way to find somewhere like pretty. You have to go out your way in time to find somewhere like interesting to fly, because there's only so many fields you can fly around. So when you get a small brushless and you can take it to a park, or you can take it to like anywhere like your garden, and you can have a great little time there, I think that's a great thing for the sport. I think that's
I think
why I loved it.
The toasted cheese sandwich of the hobby. Do you know what I mean? You kind of forget about them, and then you find the cheese toasty thing, and you can, it's the travel thing, and you can take them anywhere, and they're nice.
Great.
Yeah,
I have it in my backpack constantly. It never leaves my backpack.
Also, I think we take a lot of things for granted. Again, this is just me coming from like trying to do this hobby in the 90s, where the only option was to join an RC club, and you'd be flying a big nitro plane because that's the only platform that could carry all the gear that had enough power. And I think if when I was 7 years old, someone would have presented me with like a 20 quid Hubsan model, I'd have thrown £200 at it, because back then it would have been witchcraft, that sort of thing. So yeah. I think I come from like such a time when like I can appreciate stuff, and a lot of people like I'll review something like looks really cheap and tacky, but it flies, and that still amazes me compared to what I could do 20 years ago. So I think I'm a little biased towards these cheap things because like it's so accessible, whereas years ago, I can remember when I was younger, I would try and make fixed wing planes out of bits of cardboard, and I'd break electronics apart and try and put motors in it and stuff, and the technology just wasn't there, and they never fly. And now you can spend like 15 quid, go to like Maplin and spend 15 quid and go to your nearest field and just throw it and it flies. So that's Andy, another. Hello, yeah.
When did you do your first FPV flight?
First FPV flight, probably, I think, first FPV flight. So when I got back into FPV, it was through watching, when I got back into the hobby, it was through watching. Yeah, RC. It was through watching flight tests, as I'm sure like that's the case for a lot of people. So like when I first saw FPV, I was kind of like, I didn't want to go for it. I thought, it's a new thing, and it's not really RC. It's like I was kind of scared of it at first, so I avoided it. And what I do is I build these fixed wing planes that were they used to call them shot flyers. I'm not sure if they call them that anymore, but like little 3D planes. And I was flying those, and then I watched Flight Test review the Hubsan Spyhawk, again bringing it back to Hubsan, but I think Hubsan made it very accessible, like in 2012. So I from watching Flight Test video, I bought the Hubsan Spyhawk, which if you looked at it now, people would laugh at it, but it was just a plane with a camera. It was like a ready to fly. I think this was it for me. I didn't know enough about the hobby FPV wise to sort of understand that you need a VTX, you need a camera. So with the Hubsan Spyhawk, I bought that, and you could literally be just going in a matter of minutes. I knew how to fly, but I didn't know all of the ins and outs. So my first FPV flight, to cut the long story short, was the Hubsan Spyhawk. I then bought the H107D, which was the little tiny quadcopter, because I was all about the miniaturization of it, because one of the reasons that I left the nitro scene was I was worried about the safety of it. It was back then, like, people were getting killed like once a year by these things. I think if that happened now, it'd be all over the news, but back then, when nitro was the only option, it was quite common for people to get hurt. So
when you say nitro, I mean, it was like flying on nitro gas.
No, not nitroglycerine. Like, it's this red stuff.
Natural helis, natural. Yeah.
Yeah, Tony found it quite distressing because, like, his dinosaur friends became that fuel. It was quite. He was like.
So I'm going to guess then, based on those particular models that you, so it's about 2014 time or 2015 when you started flying FPV.
2012, I think it was, and at the end of 2012. At the end of 2012, I bought a little micro helicopter. I think those came first, didn't they, before quadcopters? The collective pitch fly ballers, were they called like the MCPX or something like that? That was around that sort of time frame. But obviously, the Hubsan Spyhawk didn't kick around till about 2014 at least. It could be. I thought it was earlier than that. I thought it was about 2012, end of 2012. The first Hubsan Spy. I could be wrong. I'm a little hazy on the timeline.
No, it's not. It's really just to understand where the technology was at the time when you started flying FPV. Whether it was, like sort of, as I said, the Juz 70s of the world who were flying a Gaui 330X with a camera on the front that they'd broken out of some CCTV unit.
Yeah, well, the first proper quadcopter that I had was a KK2. So and I think the NACE 30 when I bought the KK2, the NACE 32 was just sort of coming out or being known then. So whenever that timeline was.
Right. Okay. So yeah, that makes sense. Because when the NACE 32 came out, it was like, thank God. Because before that there was the Revo board and the
CC3D, what they called.
Yeah, the CC3D, and I couldn't get those things to I was on the message with a guy in Australia every single night, waiting for him to come online, and we'd try and get this damn blackout to fly straight in my house. They were a nightmare. And then I put a NAS in there, and it was like everything just worked. And it was night and day in terms of the first generations. Then
that was you running base flight, weren't it? Because clean flight weren't out.
Oh no, that was definitely base flight days. Yeah, early base flight days. Yeah.
Oh man, that is mental.
Yeah, it's funny. It takes me back, but on a side window here, while I was listening to that, I was just trying to find out when some of the videos that I was quoting were actually done by some of these guys out in Australia. I mean, they're just amazing when you look back at them. They're still beautiful now because they had all this amazing scenery to play with. I mean, we go hunting for locations.
I mean, he's a park ranger, the little
he used to fly somersaults over these massive trees. And I'm thinking, how the hell are you going to ever get that back? Because some of the heights he used
and down waterfalls and that.
Yeah,
like, remember Golden? Like,
man. Golden is top of the list on my window here. Yeah, in terms of just beautiful things to watch that were almost too picturesque to believe for the rest of us mere mortals trying to get it to flower in the back garden,
Yeah, I know. It's just.
Sorry, it's a real nostalgia moment, this, isn't it?
I know.
It's funny that you say nostalgia, but it's like 3 years ago. But like 3 years in this hobby is like.
This is 20.
It's like 10 years ago.
10th of February 2012 is when he uploaded Golden.
This is coming from the man who can't remember when the Spyhawk came out.
I'm sure it was end of 2012, 2013. I'm sure it was.
We had Google, and we like guys in the pub. No, you're not allowed to Google it. I'm sure it's Duran who sung that.
Yeah.
Oh man. Oh no. Back from hunting a field for a lost GoPro. I used Tony and his metal detector.
That's a good idea, a metal detector.
I know.
I once spent 2.5 hours looking for a GoPro. It was awful. And now I use fluorescent cases because you can find them so much easier with fluorescent cases.
So Andy was right. The Hudson Spyhawk was flight test reviewed on the 7th of September 2012.
Yay, I thought I was right. Yeah.
No, gotta admit when a man's right,
He's like fucking Rain Man and shit, man. Fucking.
I just remember it was I remember it was a busy time for me. One of the reasons I got back into the hobby was like to relieve stress from work, and I remember around 2012
time. Mistake.
And he's just told us about a week of being miserable and burning stuff up.
Yeah, it's all come
full circle. I'm on this new health diet. It's called the Atkins diet. I can eat a whole pound of bacon, but I can't have an apple because that's got fibre. Oh no!
Oh, don't say that in front of Tony. Anyway, you'll upset him.
Yeah, well, I'm not promoting the Atkins diet. I'm putting it down.
Yeah.
We
Tony,
only know.
Are you still there?
Tony.
I am here. I'm finding it nice just listening.
Is it cheering you up a little bit?
Yeah, a bit.
Take your mind off stuff.
Tony, if it helps, right? I did a build this week. I spent 2 days doing it, and this new record for me. I did the FPV flight, and it flew for 8 seconds before I put it in, and the frame completely broke. I had like an arm break, and so I think that I spent 2 days, 8-second flight.
I feel a bit better now.
It was absolutely awful, but you know what though, that happens more often than the good times I'm finding, especially with this new technology. But when you do get it working, it's like you've you know, completed the puzzle kind of thing. So yeah. I tend to find that if I have a crap day of building, like just put it down, just forget about it, and then a couple of days, it'll be just like one thing will just click, and you'll love it again.
That's I totally agree, but I won't. I'll put it down in my car seat and drive it to Dan Upton in Brighton and say, please mend that.
Yeah, you can't.
Jack. I really just hate, like, I don't know what it is, but I just can't stand repairing, building, or anything. All I want to do is fly, and if I crash it and it breaks, I just want to give it to someone to fix. Like, take it down, like your car. You fix, you know, you just want to drive it. If it breaks, you take it to someone who knows who fixes it. Fix that, pay some money, get it back, and then fly it.
We're probably only about like 4 years away from that.
Tony's friends with me and Dan. Tony's got that. Don't give him any.
I have got that.
So just to go back to that,
and I use it to my advantage, and I thank you very much. If I didn't have all these friends in FPV, I don't know where I'd be right now.
Yeah, equally, like, as soon as we lose something, we're like, Tony, can you find this? And the good, not only has Tony got the stick for getting stuff out of trees, and the metal findy stick, the metal detector, but like he's also like his little Jack Russells. I don't know whether he spent too much time with them, or he is just one because of his size. But he dog with a bone, won't let go. If you've lost something, he wants to know where it is. He needs to know. Like, you know, he's just like, there's a GoPro. I don't want it. Like, as if it's his. As if, like, you know, like the president has sent him down. Like, you know, Tony, you're gonna go to prison if you don't find this. Like, it's literally like life or death. I've never known
it's my only way of paying you guys back for all the shit you put up with me breaking stuff. So my mission is call me when you've pod stuck in a tree or you've lost something. I will find it. That's the only thing I'm all right at.
Yeah.
So Tony, I'm going to make you feel better now, Tony, and I'm just going to beat Andy's 8 seconds that he just had. Right? Okay. This quad. Okay. This one here, little 4-inch mini beast. Beautifully built, perfectly clean. Why is it perfectly clean? Because the board in there was working, and then I went on Clean Flight to update the firmware settings. Just to, what did I want to do? All I wanted to do was baseline all the motors and calibrate all the ESCs. That's all I wanted to do. And I picked the day when everybody had to move to the new version of base flight, and the old one didn't work anything, and they told you to reflash all your firmware and start over again. And I bricked the board, and I was so angry that I had an almost working quad that all I wanted to do was calibrate the motors, that I have not flown it since. I've not finished it. I've just left it sat there. So Tony, I feel your pain. Yeah. Okay.
You didn't have to upload. You just download the old version and load it up in developer mode. That's all. Like Painless 360's got a video on it. You don't have to update.
I know that now, but at the time, it was one of those stupid moments, like we talked about earlier, where everybody knew apart from me.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I didn't know that, and I was there, and I was in the evening. I had an hour spare. I wanted to get it flying for the following day. And so I ended up bricking the board, and I just thought,
glad it's just not me.
As punishment, I should banish you to 30 weeks of Let's Drone Out community service, where you have to listen to this dribble, so that you now know what's going on.
I'd rather go to prison. The judge gave me a choice: community service at Drone Out or go to prison. Actually,
I tell you what, if we ever do a series on shirts, I'm gonna put in hell they play Let's Drone Out all day long.
Put on the t-shirts. I'd rather go to prison than listen to LDO. That's what we should have on the back of the LDO t-shirt.
Do you know what I'm sick of saying? People are like, what's the show about? And I'm like, well, I argue with Tony. He thinks the Earth's flat, and we talk about bollocks. It's nothing. It's like having a pointless job. You know, like, what's your job? And you know you're a traffic warden. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, oh.
So who's flying where this weekend? What's going on this weekend?
I'm getting older.
It's raining apparently.
Not on Sunday.
There's a FPV event I would have liked to have gone to. Where is it? Bristol, is it? There's an event there, and I don't think there's anything else on. I'm actually going to a tiny whoop party with my bag of bits.
I'm sorry, that actually sounds rude. I'm going to a tiny whoop party. Is that the one where you go and throw your car keys in the bowl?
Yeah. I throw my broken quad into a bowl.
Jay Jones, you just found out what was wrong with Tony. Tony's tiny whoop doesn't work. Tony had a better working tiny whoop when he started, and then Tony happens.
If you said that to anyone else, oh, Tony's tiny whoop doesn't work. If you said that to anyone else, they didn't know what we were talking about out of context.
There was a thread about things that FPVers get that other people don't. You know, like inappropriate stuff.
Yeah,
it's like the game of what could Tony switch over a TV channel from watching porn so he didn't get catch? What would be like the worst thing that had come on, like, you know, like watercolor challenge, or, you know, something?
I think the worst thing would be like a website called Banggood, I think.
Yeah, that's the point. Yeah. But yeah, you know, like things that people, you know, would like misconstrue if they didn't know the hobby, like, you know, oh, I need board D, and you know, like next to smokers, like how many packs do you go through? Oh, about 8 a day.
Yeah,
stuff
packs,
like that.
yeah.
What about the whole just the 5-inch?
Yeah, 5-inch.
I've broken my 3-inch again.
Yeah, I know. Like, I took my like 3-inch out for a rip yesterday.
I hear that 4-inch is better than 5-inch.
So, I was down the park and everyone was asking me about my 5-inch.
Yeah. So I was showing Tony my 5-inch.
Yeah. So that's about the size of it then.
I've got to work on Tony's 3-inch in the corner. It's over there somewhere.
Have you even started that yet, you bugger?
Jack, when we get off air, just send us your address and I'll send you this and you can get it working for me.
Yeah. What board is it? Is it an F1 board?
It was a perfectly working NAS 32. Yes, it's nothing fancy, but it was at least working.
You do realise that support's going to be discontinued very soon?
Yeah. I've got fancy boards sitting around, but I'm too scared to use them.
Strewn about the place.
I've got one of those newfangled combinis in there somewhere, and they're not that newfangled anymore.
Yeah. Oh my word! I know. Combini, like, it sounds like that's the name that they in Japan for convenience stores, they call them combinis. Tony, why does it sound like you're making love to a little mini electric?
Don't talk to me about anything mini, any small type thing.
Can you hear it?
What, that?
Yeah, what is that?
That is my microphone rubbing against the cable. Is that better?
No, the little fan noise.
I can't hear anything.
Everyone go quiet. Sounds like a whimpering dog.
That's not me.
Sounds like a sea.
I'm mute now.
Yeah, it's at yours. You're in, Tony.
Well, I've just muted it. How can it be my end?
No,
it stopped when you muted it.
Shut up.
And then I could hear explosions, and then I realised Twitch is playing in the background.
It's that.
Is anyone else using Twitch?
What's Twitch?
No.
Live streaming for gaming.
No. Can you imagine Tony on Twitch?
Last year I was on it on PS4, but
Do you think aiming FPV at gamers is the right way to go?
I don't know, like, what? Not console gamers at all, because they don't own a PC.
Well, no, but I don't think they've got the right amount of attention span for it. Because you know when you're flying a quad and it goes down, you have to spend you have to go and walk over to that thing to get it, pick it up. Even if you've just broken a prop, that's 5 minutes until you're flying again. Like gamers just want to be playing, they die, they respawn. I think that's the mentality that gamers have. And it's,
is this generation of like FPVs that like when I went to Western Park, I just see so many young people, and I think that they probably grew up gaming as well as flying, and I think maybe they go more hand in hand than we know. Maybe that sort of. I mean, I'm terrible at flying through gates and racing because I'm terrible at video games, and I definitely think there's a relation more like with the racing side.
Isn't it? It's the fact that like kids nowadays have grown up with like controllers in their hands. So my friend, he wanted to get into FPV. I was like, hey, that's cool. Check out. Let's put you through a simulator first, because obviously, like, you know, if you just give someone the sticks of a fully acro quad, it's not going to end very well on their first flight. So I was just like, right, let me go. And within 5 minutes of flying, he was like totally used to the whole notion of flying it. And he comes from a very gaming background.
Yeah,
I think that it's definitely got some big like parallels between the two. But I think it should be kind of, there's not enough push towards the sort of extreme sports side of it. I think it's more kind of there's more parallels between like riding a BMX or a skateboard, because you have to put so much time into the effort of making a drone fly. It's the same sort of thing as like learning a new trick, isn't it? And you have to put hours and hours of work into learning a kickflip or something. Yeah. It's the same sort of thing as, you know, you have to do the same sort of thing with
gamers. They're very much a user and a consumer of gamers.
Yeah.
Handed to them on their plate for the £50 that they paid for the game or whatever, and then they just use it
until it's broken.
They're not like
Tony, like, you know, falls into that category in a way. Do you know what I mean? But he does try. I don't know. The thing, you know, you were saying about gamers and their attention span and stuff, just because you break a prop, the fun doesn't really stop. You know what I mean? Like, you'll change a prop and then you're back up again, or you know, you get to work on your quad. And
I'm not. I just put the prop on the wrong way and then smash it.
Well, at least you tighten the props up.
Yes, Jack.
I think the fact that like some of the simulators out there are on Steam, I get a lot of questions because I've reviewed Liftoff and Velocidrone and simulators like that. I do actually see a lot of requests saying, how do I set up an Xbox controller for this? So I do think people get into it through there.
No, my controller! No! Sorry.
well, that's just it, isn't it? I mean, an Xbox controller just doesn't have the dexterity of a proper transmitter. But I think
the thing is, you can buy really, like, I've got the Tenergy Evolution, and that's got like a micro USB on the sides, and it's like what, 60-70 quids, and it comes with the receiver. You know, so if you're going to start FPV, you might as well start buying a handset and then start. I think that's the best way to get into it.
I think there's a relation there, absolutely. My only issue with people coming into the hobby that way is it's always, I guess, because like I'm old-fashioned or whatever, but I always think you should learn to fly line of sight before you can fly FPV, because at the end of the day, if your FPV quits out, all you've got is line of sight. So I think that's the danger of people coming from the gaming world, is that, you know, they may be the quickest around a track or whatever, but if, you know, line of sight or whatever, you've got your orientation or all sorts of things like that. So that's something I'd be concerned with if it became popular through gaming rather than, you know, just flying.
That's me out of the question then. I can't lie to say.
I can't fly the sight.
That's really made me laugh now, because
I put my foot in it.
The first Western Park event, the first time they ran the FPV event at Western Park, we were only allowed to fly there if we passed a very, very rudimentary test where we had to hover a quad in front of us, fly it to the left, fly it. It was like a reduced version of the current A test, BMFA A test for multi-rotors. And everybody had to do that the first year we did it. I think they just scrapped that after a while.
I didn't know that.
I can fly line of sight a little bit. I used to be able to fly line of sight really well, and then I lost a quad flying a mini quad that's tiny, and I flew it too far out, and I just couldn't see it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was.
That's also the problem. Like, if you lose feed and you take off your goggles, how are you meant to know when it's like?
The transition is horrible.
You will have a spotter, won't you? Because you're all legit.
Of course.
It's over there, and you're still having to. The transition is so jarring.
You're right. You're right. In fact, when I first started FPV, I actually did it through a monitor for a long time because I was worried about that issue. And
disarm and down, and that's all you can do. Do you know what I mean? It's too jarring, or you FPV sacrificially into. Do you know what I mean? Oh, there's something there. I'll fly my quad into a bush to save whatever.
Right. You see that's just weird, Jack. That is, because I mean, when I've lost in the early days, I lost connectivity on a blackout. Obviously, that's just a 230 size, 250 size quad, and it was well over 100 meters away. And I actually flew it back line of sight from there by basic. But that's when I still had stability mode as one of my flick switches.
Yeah.
Now I don't. Now everyone runs acro, but I had acro and I had stability. Flicked it to stability, so it got a chance to sit there and hover. Looked at it, I could see it, this little black dot in the distance, and then I just put it full tilt forward to see which direction it went, to the left of me, to the right of me, even further away or back towards me, to work out its orientation. And then from there, I just twisted it around and went, right, it's kind of coming back to me now. But you can fly them back from a good distance out.
That's with your leveling mode on, though, isn't it?
Yeah. I wouldn't been able to do it on acro.
One thing I will say is, like, I really think that's like a great part of the hobby is flying line of sight. So I would say that if you say that you can't fly line of sight or you're not interested in it, I'd say give it a try. I like it equally, if not more, than flying FPV. And if you want to if you want to try it, the Velocidrone simulator has got a line of sight view, and it's so accurate. It's really accurate. So if you want to get into that, then I'd recommend it. But I thought everyone was flying line of sight. I don't know what I'm talking about.
I don't see any interest of line of sight whatsoever. Not with planes, not with quads, not anything.
Tony, line of sight is the best way to tune a quad out to start with.
Agreed. Or put 317 beta flight on and move it.
Oh, here we go. A couple of weeks ago, it was race flight.
To actually sit it there in front of you and then just pump it up and watch it just see those little vibrations and work out what it's doing.
See what I mean? Pump it up. All those little vibrations. You know what I mean?
5 inches.
I speaking about earlier, I would love to see some outtakes of Andy RC rage. You know what I mean? Like him just being like, bumper buttons, switches, bitch, just like.
Have you got any outtakes like that, Andy? Because I'd like that would actually cheer me up on a day like today.
I've got it's funny that you mentioned that, because I've got a fail video going up either tonight or tomorrow. Well, actually, this week has all been about fails, but something that I said earlier was that, like, I've been playing with fire, and something that I've been messing with a lot is 360 cameras on quadcopters. It's
with the little weird TV screen at the bottom of your battery.
Yeah.
That was such a cool video, by the way.
Yeah.
Right, so I've been playing around with the 360 video. It's something I've always been interested in, and I'm someone that, like, I've always loved going to air shows. I used to go to Western Park when I was younger. I used to go to Costco.
You were there the other week. What are you on about?
But what I'm trying to get at, like, so what I've attempted to do is fit a smoke system on a quadcopter, which, you know, it's a recipe for disaster, because you're essentially putting a firework onto a quadcopter. And so I've been working on fitting like an ignition system to it, so that you can set it off in the air. So it's not just me who's got this idea.
No.
We did that the other month at Brighton, didn't we? We put it wasn't an ignition one. It was the smoke trail ones like you put on the fixed wings, and we stuck them on quads. I've got the pictures still from that. Yeah.
Speak to David Vinderstall, because he had to develop a whole system, and he said like he just used to smoke a resistor or something, because he had the whole, detaching the helium balloon in the vacuum of space. He is like the person to ask, be like, yo, how do I light that? And also there's guys on Facebook who make the smoke bombs, because if you talk to Frank, our producer, he's like, yeah, I've ordered some stuff online that has probably put me on a list somewhere. But have you got an Xbox controller, Andy? Can I send you? You have?
I haven't got one. No, I haven't got.
Can I send you my one so that you can tag like a little thing on the end of it, being like Xbox,
Yeah.
And then send it back to me, or like drill it out and try and make a decent controller. That'd be so good if you got like a cheap VTX and like put, modded it so you look like you were flying a.
It'd get people interested, wouldn't it, if they could hold an Xbox controller?
How to mod your Xbox controller? Maybe that will be a nice little prank video for people, because no one listens to Let's Drone Out. No one will know. Like 24 people will literally know that you're doing this. But
of course,
if I send you my Xbox controller, maybe you could do the April Fools for next year of how to modify your Xbox controller to make an RC plane. To connect to your drone. You know what I mean? And get Tony to like give you advice, on how to get it to work.
But anyways, this smoke system, the ignition system failed, and it exploded on the ground and put a big. I got this helipad, right? I got this helipad, and it blew a hole through the helipad. So that video is going up either tonight or tomorrow. So I've had a lot of fails this week, so I'm going to be putting those up.
I might put mine up then. Just my bag of bits poured out onto my side with the tiny whoop music in the background.
I'll tell you what, Tony, it can't be any better than watching you do the washing up.
Yeah. Did you like that live stream?
I love that washing up video. I sat there and watched it, pissing my sides at work. People were like, "What are you laughing at?" I'm like, my mate doing a live stream of him doing the washing up. Sorry.
I was so fed up with people live streaming their 3D printers. Like, here's me live streaming me printing something really shit for 24 hours. I was like, this is pissing me off. What can I do? So I live streamed, which actually got so many comments and watches. It was unbelievable.
It was. I think it was the time of the day. He did it at lunchtime when people could watch it. I mean, the vacuum cleaning one was not at the right time for me, so I couldn't watch that one. But
the vacuum cleaning one, bloody! I actually sellotaped my phone onto the front of the vacuum.
Oh man, do you know what? If someone ever has like a dead 3D printer, I think we should take the arm in the center out of it and just put like a little toilet seat on top of it for Tony, so he could like chill and just take a dump onto the print platform.
You know what? I would.
Extrude this. Have a F4 being offered at V3 Mini. Tina, I don't know what that's
explain
about.
More.
Yeah, explain.
Where are these comments coming in? Should I be able to see them?
Yeah, if you look in the bottom, there's links, and go to the YouTube page. You'll have to mute it, but here is the link, Rich.
So not only can you slag me off via voice, you can type stuff slagging me off as well.
So that'll open the YouTube page. There's a chat there. So I think we've run our allotted time anyway.
Yeah.
What's our time? Does anyone know?
9:15.
No, run time.
it's
over an hour.
No, we started late, I think. I don't know.
20 minutes late.
We didn't start that late. It wasn't all my fault, honest.
No. Well, it was me sending you the wrong link. You were expecting an email. So I don't know. Anyone know? Have we done our hour?
I think we've done an hour. Yeah,
I think we have. Yeah.
1 hour 10 minutes.
1 hour 10 minutes. Thank you. Look at Carlos being helpful, and all we do is like give Carlos a hard time. Me and Tony. It sucks being Carlos if you're dealing with me and Tony. He was driving his little he's got like a little buggy with an Action Man with a camera, 3D camera in it, and he's got it on servos as a head. Carlos, if you want, you can post a link. Man, I can't mod you on that computer. Somehow send us a link for it. But yeah, he was driving this little buggy around FPV, and it would follow us around, and you can pick him up, and it would shake his head. And I found a croc, like a little child's croc shoe, you know, those ugly shoes, and I attached it to it, and so he's dragging that along and stuff like that. So I always, whenever I see him, I always fuck with him. All right, but yeah, he's got, you know, the right little pervert wagon for looking up girls' skirts. You know, I shouldn't really say that, ruining the hobby, but you know.
Oh yeah, ruining the hobby.
Yeah.
Tony, I got to ask, are you live streaming on Facebook?
I was.
Right, I need to get you on Facebook, mate. This sounds too gold to miss out.
It was a couple of months ago, but I do now and again live stream washing up.
There we go. That's where it's at then.
It is.
What's your surname?
Jackson. None of this is real.
None of this is real.
No, it's all an illusion, Tony. Has anyone noticed Tony streaming in HD? When did that happen? Have you got like a new camera or something?
No, just my internet must be working better today. Or it's because I'm not putting my face on the screen.
No, earlier on you had a HD symbol. Chris has got a HD symbol. He's in HD. And Andy as well.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Oh, Chris, you're muted.
Hello.
Hello, what did you say?
Is that because we're using Macs?
Oh.
Heyo.
I know.
Are you not using Mac?
I'm on Windows at the moment.
Oh, mate.
I've got a C90.
Come on.
I think.
This is the real.
I've got Mac here.
Best of both worlds, eh?
Yeah.
I don't use Mac because I don't think Macs can render 4K, can they? Or am I completely wrong on that?
Oh,
I don't.
I just started rendering in 4K, and I upgraded my PC, and I was looking. I don't think Macs can do 4K. No,
I think the newest MacBook can do 4K. I don't think the older ones.
Is there any point though? Because YouTube canes are 1080p anyway. So
well,
it's that thing, isn't it, where it's like in 10 years' time when we're all looking at 4K videos, and then like, you know, we'll watch a 5-year-old video in 1080p's now the 360p. It's at all. So you know, you have to upgrade, especially if you run a YouTube channel as well. But yeah, it's quite tricky rendering and editing in 4K. You need a lot of power and a lot of space.
Yeah, but tell me, who doesn't enjoy watching Star Trek in the original square screen on your widescreen TV? Big black side panels either side.
I know, Tony's chuckling. He had cave paintings back in the day.
Yeah, I had to put
modern times back then.
I'm going to predict when GoPro come out with the next camera and it's going to do 4K 60, everyone in the community will switch to 4K 60, I think. And I say that because I've seen 4K 60 and it's fantastic. The new the Phantom 4 Pro, that does 4K 60, and I thought, oh, it's not going to add anything. And then I ran it at 4K 60, and I thought, wow, imagine that on a mini quad. So I think, yeah, we'll probably laugh at it now, say it's useless, but I think when 4K, we'll look at this video maybe in 3 years' time and say whether I was right or wrong, but I think 4K 60 will
4K 60 is fine. Well, any 4K is fine on YouTube. I've got a 4K TV and I watch YouTube, you know, 4K stuff on it. But when it's slow moving stuff, it's fine. It's when you start doing 4K fast stuff, or you know, it goes choppy. Even when I record in 1080p 60 frames, done flying above some poppies, and it's YouTube just canes it, and you never get to see how it originally is.
It takes a lot of processing power. Yeah.
Yeah. There'll just be fire coming out of all my machines. Like if I try and render any 4K, it'll just be like fire everywhere. Right. Should we call it there? We've been joined by Andy RC, the Ashens of the RC world. We've been joined by #1 boy band Chris. We've also been joined by FPV Grandad and prehistoric FPV Tony. And I have been the possible homeless guy that you might try and buy a big issue from, even though I don't have one. But you never know.
It's a good job for you, though.
I know. Well, I'm in the market. Yeah, if anyone has a job for me, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, build my bloody quad. It's behind.
Yes, I will. I've got a life, you know. I don't just
have a fiddle with Tony's 3-inch.
Yeah, I always. Yeah, I might put Tony's 3-inch in my mouth.
Okay, now it's time to stop.
Thank you for inviting Jack. Thank you for inviting me on. I'll make sure I don't come again after a comment like that.
Jack,
you cannot show this to your daughter.
That became a different hobby right then.
I did not say that. That is Andy RC, the peddler of filth and cheap stuff.
Which is the same thing.
Yeah. Right. I have a job for you. You can carry the car for a penny. Great show, guys. Thank you, Clegger. Thank you, everyone, for being in the chat. Like, subscribe. Write mean stuff on Tony's wall on Facebook at Tone Star Jackson. I think he is. Add him as a friend. Also, follow Tony on his YouTube channel because he whines at me like a little bitch. If he's that bothered, why didn't he just host Let's Drone Out from there? Also, you can make a donation to Tony's PayPal in order for him to get his Whoop to work. If not,
I've got money, Jack. I'm not a pauper. I just want someone to do it for me.
Or you can volunteer to fix Tony's quad.
I'm driving to Brighton in a minute. I'm literally I'm going to
you can volunteer. You can volunteer to fix Tony's Whoop on the Facebook channel.
I don't let him anywhere near my Whoop. Thank you very much.
You've been listening to Let's Drone Out. It's been Thursday, the 20th of July. Thank you and good night.
Cheers, guys.
Ciao.